My wife cheated on me with the husband of my best friend and claimed that there was nothing wrong with that. I never thought I'd be one of those people posting a story like this. I've read plenty of them, some you can tell are made up, others hit a little too close to home. And now here I am, writing mine. Not for attention, not for sympathy. Just because I need to get it out. Maybe someone going through something similar will see the signs before it's too late. My name's Walter. I'm 29. I work in account management for a logistics company, not the most exciting career, but it pays the bills. I live in a mid-sized city in the Midwest, nothing fancy. My ex-girlfriend, her name's Deirdre, we'd been together for almost 4 years. We met at a house party near the end of college. She was friends with a few girls I knew from class, and I remember she had this way of laughing that made everyone look at her. Deirdre was bright, quick-witted, and had this confident charm that made you feel like you were the most important person in the room when she talked to you. We hit it off fast. I wasn't exactly Mr. Charisma, I'm more reserved, the steady type, but she said she liked that. That I was different. After graduation, we both ended up with jobs in the same city and decided to stay. We dated for a couple of years, then moved in together. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We split everything pretty equally. Rent, chores, bills. I did the grocery shopping, she cooked. I was better with numbers, she handled our social calendar. We talked about marriage a few times. Kids. Vacations we'd take one day. There wasn't some grand romantic proposal plan in the works, but we both knew it was heading there. Deirdre worked in communications at a corporate firm downtown. Her job came with lots of after-work events, happy hours, occasional weekend retreats. I trusted her. I wasn't the jealous type. Never had reason to be. She had 2 best friends she'd known since college, Meredith and Lila. I'd heard about them for years. Funny stories, text screenshots, inside jokes she'd share with me. Meredith was married to a guy named Everett, and Lila was always dating someone new. Despite all the stories, I'd never actually met them. Deirdre always kept her college friendships separate from our life together, which, at the time, I didn't think much of. One weekend, out of the blue, Deirdre suggested we all go out for brunch. She said, "You're the most important person in my life, and so are they. It's about time everyone meets." I was surprised but happy. It felt like a step forward. We met at a place called Willow and Hearth, this upscale brunch spot with artisan lattes and $9 granola. I remember the weather was perfect, the kind of spring morning that makes everything feel a little lighter. First impressions? Meredith was polite but quiet. Everett, her husband, was loud, overly confident, kind of the center of attention type. Lila was funny in a dry way, the kind of person who could cut someone down with a clever one-liner but not make it mean. She actually made me laugh a few times, which was rare around people I didn't know. What stood out to me wasn't what anyone said, it was how Deirdre and Everett interacted. Nothing overtly wrong, but there was an odd familiarity between them. Shared jokes that I wasn't in on. He'd say something, and she'd finish his thought like they'd rehearsed it. A couple of times he touched her arm or leaned in a little too closely when talking to her. It wasn't obvious. Subtle. But noticeable. I didn't say anything that day. On the way home, I asked her casually how she knew Everett so well. She brushed it off. "Oh, he's just always been around through Meredith. We've all hung out forever." That made sense. Sort of. But something about it didn't sit right with me. Over the next few weeks, I noticed a shift. Deirdre started bringing up Meredith and Everett more often, specifically Everett. She'd mention something he said about real estate or joke about a story from back in the day. Once, when we were cooking dinner, she randomly said, "Everett thinks the Forge has the best steak in the city." I remember asking, "Oh? You talked to him recently?" And she said, "Yeah, just a quick chat, he texted me about this marketing article." That struck me as odd. Why was her best friend's husband texting her articles? I tried not to dwell on it. People have friends. I didn't want to become paranoid. But things kept piling up. Her work schedule suddenly became unpredictable. She'd be out later, citing last-minute meetings or spontaneous happy hours that, apparently, didn't include partners. She started turning her phone face down on the table. Took it with her into the bathroom. Changed her password. We'd never had a problem with phones. We both had full access, not because we snooped, but because we had nothing to hide. Then came the first message from Lila. It was late, just past midnight. I'd never received a message from her directly before. It popped up on my phone. "Walter, I think you should know something about." And that was it. The rest disappeared. Either she deleted it, or something glitched. I replied, asking if she meant to send that to me. She never responded. The next morning, I mentioned it to Deirdre. Just offhand, over coffee. Her reaction? Immediate. She froze, just for a second, then shrugged and said Lila must have been drunk texting. She's done that before. Don't worry about it. But now my radar was up. I started watching things more carefully, not obsessively, just more aware. Deirdre's girls' nights started happening more frequently. Once or twice a month turned into once or twice a week. And sometimes Everett was involved. Supposedly he was just giving Meredith a ride, or already in the area. Her phone usage changed entirely. She never left it unattended. Would step into the hallway to take calls. And when I'd ask basic questions, like how's Meredith doing? Deirdre would hesitate, then give vague answers that didn't track with what she said before. Then, 2 weeks later, Lila called me. Voice shaking, nervous. Look, Walter, she said. I shouldn't be calling you, but you need to pay attention. Something's going on, and I can't be the one to say it. Just, open your eyes. I asked her to explain, but she wouldn't. Said she'd already done too much. I hung up more confused than ever. But also more convinced something was wrong. So, I paid attention. I noticed Deirdre always stayed out late on Thursdays. Every Friday, she'd be distant, quiet, distracted. I started remembering things she'd said about Everett in passing. Started noticing how often she mentioned him, but not Meredith. I tried to be fair. I didn't want to be the guy who jumped to conclusions. But I also couldn't ignore what was in front of me. Then came the random grocery store run-in with Lila. That was the moment everything turned. It was a Sunday afternoon when I ran into Lila again. Completely unplanned, I was grabbing a few groceries, mostly snacks and coffee. She was in the same aisle, standing in front of the freezer doors, staring at a row of frozen pizzas like they held the meaning of life. When she saw me, her face turned pale. Not embarrassed, nervous. The kind of nervous where you know something and haven't told it, and now it's standing right in front of you in sweatpants holding a six-pack of ginger ale. We exchanged a polite hey, and I almost kept walking. But then she stepped closer and said, "Have you noticed anything?" I paused, unsure how to answer. I just nodded slowly. She looked around like she expected someone to be watching, then leaned in a little and said quietly, "Meredith doesn't know." I tried to tell her something was off with Everett, but she shut me down. Said I was just bitter about being single. I asked her plainly, "Why are you telling me this now?" She took a breath and said, "Because I think you're the only one who doesn't know yet." That hit me hard. I asked her what exactly she'd seen, but she wouldn't give specifics. Said it wasn't her place. But you need to be honest with yourself, Walter. I've seen things I can't unsee. This isn't just casual or harmless. It's been going on for a while. Before I could press further, an older woman behind us cleared her throat, wanted to open the freezer door we were blocking. That broke the moment, and Lila just said again, "Keep your eyes open," and walked away. That night, when Deirdre got home late again, I almost confronted her right then and there. I almost let everything pour out. But I didn't. I realized I needed proof. Not just for her to deny, or twist the story, but for me. To be sure. To not second-guess myself later. And, truthfully, for what I was beginning to plan in my head. So I stayed quiet. Acted normal. Kissed her on the cheek when she came home, asked how her team dinner had gone, listened to a rehearsed story about her coworker and a dessert mishap. All lies, probably. But I didn't flinch. Over the next week, I became an observer in my own life. I noticed the subtle ways she distanced herself. She picked little fights about nothing, laundry left unfolded, forgetting to buy lemons, not texting her back fast enough. Things that never mattered before suddenly became topics of argument. I realized she was trying to build a case to justify something, maybe to herself more than me. So I started mentally documenting things. Every Thursday, she stayed out late. Every Friday, she seemed guilty but cold. Her energy was different. Conversations were shorter. She was irritable, but only when I was too kind or too distant. It was like she wanted me to provoke her. Then I did something bold. I suggested we invite Everett and Meredith over for dinner. Just us four. Said I wanted to get to know her friends better. The reaction was instant. She fumbled through a reason they probably wouldn't be free, something about Everett's parents visiting or Meredith having a volunteer commitment. She wouldn't even text them to ask. Just brushed it off and changed the subject. That was the last piece I needed. I decided to set a trap. I told her I had a big client dinner the next Thursday. A late one. Said I might be out until midnight, maybe later. Don't wait up, I said, casually. She smiled, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and said, good luck. Knock it out of the park. I could almost see her planning. That entire week was surreal. I was going to work, coming home, cooking dinner, talking about groceries and upcoming bills, all while knowing something major was coming. It felt like preparing to end a chapter of your life while still pretending to live in it. Thursday came. I went to work like usual, but around 2 p.m., I told my boss I had a family emergency and needed to head out early. He didn't ask questions, he's one of the good ones. On the way home, I stopped by a takeout spot and picked up Deirdre's favorite order, sesame salmon with jasmine rice and her weird obsession with fennel slaw. Not because I thought we'd be eating dinner together. Because I wanted symbolism. I wanted the visual irony of showing up with her comfort food while she was doing something that would break everything. I parked down the street. Sat in my car for a few minutes, staring at a black sedan I recognized Everett's. It was in our lot. Parked crooked, like whoever was driving was in a hurry. I didn't feel angry. I didn't cry. I didn't even shake. I felt clear. I walked quietly into the building, sushi bag in one hand, phone in the other. I had already cleared out extra space on my phone earlier in the day. Just in case. I unlocked the door to our apartment slowly. No noise. No light except for the faint glow under the bedroom door. I didn't even need to hear anything. I already knew. But I heard it anyway. The unmistakable rhythm of betrayal. I can't describe it, but if you've been there, you know. I set the sushi bag on the kitchen counter. Pulled out my phone. Started recording. I moved quietly down the hall. Every step felt like I was walking toward the end of something. Part of me hoped I was wrong. That somehow it wasn't what I thought. That maybe I'd open the door and find her watching TV or on a call or something ridiculous. But I wasn't wrong. I opened the door. And there they were. I didn't yell. I didn't say anything at first. I just held the phone steady. They didn't even notice me right away. When they did, Everett nearly fell over himself trying to grab his clothes. Deirdre sat up quickly, clutching the blanket, eyes wide, not in shame, not in regret but in irritation. As if I'd ruined her night. For a moment, no one spoke. I didn't stop recording. I wanted their expressions documented. Wanted their reactions frozen in time. Finally, I asked her one question. How long has this been going on? She hesitated, then said something I'll never forget. It was just once. Get over it. As if that excused anything. As if that made it better. As if 4 years of trust and shared life could be dismissed with a single sentence. Everett didn't say anything. He just kept pulling on his clothes, avoiding eye contact, fumbling to fasten his belt. Deirdre sat frozen, her arms wrapped around herself, wrapped in a blanket that just hours earlier had been part of our shared life. I stood there with my phone recording, not raising my voice, not reacting the way she likely expected. And in hindsight, I think that rattled her more than anything. You need to leave, I said to Everett, calmly. To his credit, he didn't argue. He grabbed his shoes and wallet and hurried out, muttering something that sounded like sorry, but I didn't care enough to register it. Once he was gone, the room was silent again. Just me and Deirdre, and the weight of everything we'd built now lying shattered between us. She tried to speak, offering some excuse or rationalization, I don't even remember the exact words. Something about how I'd been distant, how she felt neglected, how it just happened. I said nothing. I just kept the phone recording. And then, like a switch flipping, she got defensive. Started bringing up every minor argument from months ago. Every time I'd forgotten to call, or didn't notice her new haircut, or came home too tired to talk. As if those small missteps justified what she'd done. I finally stopped recording and looked her straight in the eyes. You didn't just hurt me, I said. You humiliated yourself. And you don't even realize it yet. She tried to change tactics again, pleading, apologizing, promising it meant nothing. But she never said she regretted it. That told me everything. I picked up a bag I'd packed earlier in the week just in case. My laptop, some clothes, essentials. Then I grabbed my keys and walked to the door. Walter, where are you going? I'm leaving, I said. You won't hear from me again. But you'll hear from life. That was it. No dramatic exit. No slamming doors. Just quiet. I drove to my friend Lionel's apartment. He opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. Just motioned me inside and said, "You're staying as long as you need." That first night was tough. I lay awake on his pull-out couch staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I'd had with Deirdre over the past few months. Every time I questioned her late nights or her vague explanations, she'd gaslight me into thinking I was insecure or paranoid. And the thing is, I believed her. I trusted her. I made myself smaller to avoid conflict. But not anymore. The next morning, I woke up early. I had a strange sense of clarity, like something inside me had shifted. I knew exactly what I had to do. First, I called my landlord. Deirdre and I had been living in a 2-bedroom apartment for almost 2 years, but the lease was under my name only. She'd had credit issues in the past, and we agreed it made sense for me to handle the lease. Now, that decision became my advantage. I told the landlord the situation in broad terms, that the relationship had ended, and I wanted to break the lease early. There was a clause allowing it if I paid 1 month's rent as a penalty, which I did over the phone. He said he'd post a notice on the door that day, stating that we had 30 days to vacate unless a new lease was signed. Given Deirdre's income and credit, I already knew she wouldn't qualify on her own. Then I contacted the utility companies: electricity, water, gas, and internet. Everything was in my name, paid automatically each month from my account. I didn't just transfer them to her name. I closed every single account. That meant services would be discontinued by the end of the day. If she wanted them restored, she'd have to apply for new accounts, pay deposit fees, and wait for reactivation. I suspected she didn't have the means to handle that all at once. Next, I addressed finances. We never shared a bank account, thank goodness. But I had added her as an authorized user on one of my credit cards years ago, mostly for emergencies or shared household items. I called the card company and had her removed immediately. After that, I sat down at a quiet cafe and went through my phone. I took screenshots of every suspicious message, every half-truth she texted, and of course, stills from the video I recorded. I organized everything into a folder and backed it up to the cloud. Not because I intended to share it recklessly, but because I knew I might need it for legal or personal reasons, especially with what was coming. Around noon, I turned my phone back on for the first time since leaving the apartment. The messages and missed calls poured in. Deirdre had gone through the entire emotional cycle: anger, confusion, pleading, and finally desperation. There were voicemails asking me to come home. Texts saying she was sorry. Emails promising it would never happen again. I didn't respond. Around 4 p.m., I got a message from Meredith. "Walter, can we talk? I need to know if what I heard is true." We met at a small diner near Lionel's place. She looked exhausted, eyes swollen, face pale, wearing a hoodie and no makeup. She was always one of those polished, graceful types. Not today. She ordered coffee but didn't drink it. She looked at me and said, "I know something's going on. But I need you to tell me." So I did. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her about the messages, the video, the pattern. Her face changed with every sentence, from confusion to hurt to quiet fury. Then I showed her the still frame. Just one. Everett and Deirdre, unmistakable. She didn't cry. She just said, "I knew something was off." I let him make me feel crazy. We talked for another hour about the signs we both ignored, the lies we both accepted. When we left, she hugged me and said, "Thank you for being honest. I wish someone had done that for me sooner." I returned to the apartment that evening when I knew Deirdre would be out, her weekly yoga class. It was always at the same time, and I wanted to avoid a confrontation. I gave myself 30 minutes. I packed only what mattered: clothes, personal files, sentimental items that I didn't want left behind. I avoided the bedroom. Couldn't bring myself to go in. Before I left, I placed my key on the kitchen counter with a note. "Lease ends in 30 days. Utilities are off. Don't contact me." As I walked to my car, she pulled into the lot. Our eyes met briefly through the windshields. Her face went from confusion to panic. She started to get out of her car, but I was already pulling away. I didn't stop. The next morning, I woke up to more than 30 emails from Deirdre. The first few were angry, accusing me of overreacting. Then came the ones filled with panic about the water not working, the Wi-Fi being down, and the credit card being declined at a grocery store. The final few were desperate. Pleading. "I can't afford this place without you. My parents won't help. Please talk to me." I didn't answer any of them. As that was happening, Meredith began executing her own plan. What Deirdre and Everett hadn't counted on was how connected Meredith really was. She worked in the Human Resources Department at a sister company of the same corporation where Everett and Deirdre worked. That's right, they were co-workers too. Something Deirdre conveniently never told me. It turned out Everett had been Deirdre's direct supervisor during a prior project rotation, a detail I only learned after everything came crashing down. Meredith contacted HR and submitted a formal complaint, along with carefully redacted screenshots from the video and texts that strongly suggested an inappropriate relationship. Their company had clear policies about inter-office relationships, especially those involving power dynamics. Both Everett and Deirdre were placed on administrative leave while the investigation unfolded. Meredith also filed for divorce. She had receipts, and she wasn't going to let them play victim. While all this was happening, I stayed quiet. Focused on work. Moved into a new apartment. Nothing fancy, just clean, quiet, mine. My friend Lionel helped me move. He didn't say much, just kept making jokes and handing me boxes. That's how he shows support. I appreciated it. I set up a little workspace in the corner of my living room and started cooking again. Simple meals. Not just eating to survive, living again. I had clarity I hadn't felt in years. Not because I was happy that Deirdre's life was falling apart, but because I wasn't stuck in it anymore. A week later, I got a text from Lila. She found out. Apparently, Deirdre had discovered everything. The lease termination. The utilities. The HR investigation. The credit card removal. All of it. She reportedly went to the leasing office in tears, trying to stop the process, but it was already underway. Her income and credit weren't enough to qualify for the apartment on her own. She pleaded with the property manager, who explained politely but firmly that it was out of their hands. To make matters worse, she ran into Meredith in the leasing office lobby. Meredith didn't hold back. She walked right up to Deirdre and asked, flat out, "How long were you seeing my husband?" Deirdre tried to play dumb, claiming it was a misunderstanding. Meredith wasn't buying it. She'd seen the messages. She'd seen the video. "You're not sorry you did it," Meredith said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're just sorry you got caught." Before leaving, Meredith handed Deirdre a printed copy of the lease termination paperwork and said, 30 days. Good luck. That same night, Deirdre showed up at my office. I got a message from reception saying a woman was waiting for me, insisting it was urgent. I replied, "Tell her I'm in a meeting." She waited. For over 20 minutes. When the office manager asked her to leave, she started raising her voice. Security had to escort her out. As she was leaving, she shouted across the lobby, "He ruined my life over one mistake." One of my co-workers recorded the scene from a discreet angle and showed it to me later. It was strange watching her unravel like that. Not satisfying. Just sad. That week, Deirdre tried calling me multiple times. At first I ignored them, but eventually I picked up. She was sobbing. They're transferring Everett to another office. They were going to promote me to his old role, but now I might be let go. HR says they're still reviewing everything. I don't even know if I'll have health insurance next month. I can't pay rent. I can't go back to my parents' house. Walter, please. I let her speak. Then I simply said, "You made these choices. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." And I hung up. A few days later, she emailed me a list. The subject line read, "We need to fix this." Inside were 5 things she said I needed to do. Reactivate the utilities in the apartment. Allow her back on the credit card for just a couple more months. Talk to Meredith and explain that things weren't as serious as they looked. Call HR and clear up any misunderstandings. Help her find a new apartment. I read it twice, half wondering if she was serious. She was. I didn't respond. And that was the last I heard from her for a while. About a month passed. Life got quieter. I settled into a routine again. I got the promotion at work I'd been chasing for over a year. I started working out again. Sleeping better. Laughing more. Then, one evening, I got a message from Lila. She knows. Apparently, Deirdre had found out I'd been seeing someone. Nothing serious yet, but yes, I had started spending more time with someone. Someone who'd actually tried to warn me in the first place. Lila. It started out innocently, just catching up. A coffee here, a walk there. But over time, something real began to form. There were no games. No emotional manipulation. Just two people talking honestly. When Deirdre found out, she lost control again. She sent Lila a string of messages accusing her of betrayal, of being a traitor, saying I'd leave her too. Then she took it further, waiting for Lila outside her gym one evening, confronting her in the parking lot. Lila didn't back down. She calmly told her to walk away and that if she didn't stop, she'd be filing a restraining order. Deirdre finally backed off. We haven't heard from her since. It's strange how quickly a storm can come and go. For so long, I felt like I was living in one, constantly dodging debris, wondering if I was overthinking things. But once I stepped outside of it, I realized how peaceful life could be. And that peace? That was the real reward. Lila and I are still seeing each other. We're taking it slow. There's no pressure, no expectations, just something honest. Something real. If there's anything I've learned from this, it's that trust isn't something you beg for or earn once. It's built every day, choice by choice. Deirdre made her choices. So did I. And for the first time in a long time, I don't regret mine. Thank you all for watching the video, and see you soon.